Well, it's telling me it's recording, so we'll see what's happening.
See what happens. Yeah, it shows
All right.
recording on my side too.
All right. Well,
That's
there you go. Well, let's see how long this lasts. I'll try to delete some stuff off my phone while we're going and make sure it doesn't blow my phone out.
hopefully not.
All right, guys. Well, I'm gonna try to make sure that this works well. So I want to welcome everybody. Hope you guys are all having a good week. I apologize for the rather significant technical lameness that this is. For you guys, it probably just looks a little too bright. Let me see if I can move this light. Oh, there, much less obnoxious. So my apologies. My power went out an hour ago if you didn't hear me say that. And so this will be conducted as normal, but just in case anything looks weird, that's the issue. And hopefully, again, everyone's having a good week. If you have any questions during Alyssa's presentation, please do so via the chat box, which should hopefully be open now. And you should be able to type in there any questions you have. I will try to make it logical and get in there and check those questions out. You can also save questions till the end and ask. Please try not to unmute yourselves in the middle of Alyssa's presentation unless there's something you really need to ask or want to ask, and I'm sure Alyssa won't mind being interrupted slightly. But if you guys can keep yourselves muted otherwise, that would be helpful. And if you have any questions related to Alyssa's presentation or anything after, please feel free to hang on and ask. Otherwise, I'm going to turn this over to the world famous Alyssa, and she is going to talk tonight about nutrition and the role it plays training, racing, and being healthy for both training and recovery. So Alyssa, the floor is yours. I'm going to mute myself and try to make my phone work.
Sounds good. Thanks for allowing me to be here today. I'm excited. I recognize a few faces on here and some names, but I know I haven't met everyone. So if we haven't met, I'm Alyssa. I'm a registered dietitian, and I'd be happy to talk with any of you today or after the fact. So with that, we will dive into today's presentation. Hopefully I'm able to share my screen. Let's see if I can get that to work. Is it, let's see, I'm gonna try and transfer over. Are you able to?
Yeah, if you're trying to select it, when you go to share screen, just double click on whatever it is. It'll bring up your options that you can share, and just kind of double click on your options. It should pop up, then it should take over the screen, hopefully.
Let's see. It's showing that I need to open system preferences. Sorry, more technical difficulties.
All right, it's a lot of light.
See if I can figure this out real quick.
Sorry, guys.
Well,
It should just allow you to.
yeah, usually I don't have any issues. Let me try again. For some reason, it's not coming up.
I'm gonna check on my end to make sure there's nothing. It would tell you if it was not allowing you to do it on my end.
I don't know.
Sorry, guys. Give us 1 second here.
Yeah, it just says open system preferences, but it looks like my system preferences are saying it should share. And
it's not letting you do it.
Yeah, I'm not seeing anything. I mean, nothing yet. It's not showing anything.
Give me 1 second. Let me make sure it's set up correctly. Yeah, it's set up on here. Let me turn it off and turn it back on, and let me make sure that it works. Hold on a second.
Sorry, everyone.
Try it again. See if that works.
If for some reason it's giving me like a little triangle with an exclamation point in the middle, like it's something's not working, and rather than it showing like what my screen looks like.
On my end, it's set to allow you to share screen, so it should be.
Strange. Well,
Do you want me to bring up the look on my end, which I might be able to?
yeah, let's try that and see if it works. I can talk through it, but it wouldn't be nearly as exciting.
Certainly not going to be exciting if I bring it up. Let me try to do that while you can go ahead and start.
Sure. Yeah.
Sorry, and I'll try to bring it up if I can. Give me
I'll
one
pretend like you guys can see my screen, and hopefully you at least still get something out of it, and hopefully we can redirect it. And honestly, what I'm presenting today is we have an e-guide out there on Beyond Exercise's website. So if you have, availability to get on the website right now, you can actually get to this guide, and we can walk through it together. So let's see. Just in case anybody wants to go that route, if you go on the website and then go under, let's see, learn, we have free e-guides, and we're talking about the one that says the roles of nutrition, healing, and post-workout recovery. So if anybody wants to get on the internet and just click it from the website, that's what I'm going to be talking through today, and maybe that's an easier way to go about it since we're having some technical issues. So hopefully that works for some people if we can't get the screen to work. But I'll go ahead and just kind of talk through it. And again, if you guys have questions during, feel free to submit them in the chat box. Rick can step in and ask during, that's totally fine, or we can wait until the end as well. So again, talking about the roles of nutrition in both healing and post-workout recovery. And really this is important, especially for all of you all as runners, because you're probably experiencing some increased stress that running puts on the body. And often you're probably experiencing a lot of post-workout fatigue. So with that, we want to optimize our nutrition so that we can recover quickly, heal from any injuries if we do run into those, which unfortunately in running, they tend to happen fairly often. So we just want to, be aware of that and see what we can do with nutrition to optimize that healing and recovery process. And so with this guide that I'm presenting on today, we're really looking at 4 different questions. So 1, how does nutrition impact the healing process? What should you eat to promote a healing process? Why is nutrition important for workout recovery? And then when and what should you eat after exercise? And today we're talking mostly after exercise because we are focusing on that recovery period. But I do want to say that in a few weeks, we will be talking again about pre and post nutrition. So if you have questions about that, keep those kind of tucked in your back pocket, and we'll have a whole session on pre and post workout nutrition as well in the coming weeks. Okay, so to answer that first question.
Sorry,
what was it?
Still trying, just so you know.
Okay, I appreciate all of the effort. Hopefully somebody was able to at least get the e-guide, and if not, hopefully I don't bore you with just the sound of my voice. But okay, so how does nutrition impact the healing process? Well, basically the foods that we eat contain macronutrients and micronutrients. So macronutrients being protein, carbohydrates, and fat, micronutrients being vitamins and minerals, and these tie into all of the biological processes that we experience in the body. So things like tissue regeneration, things like inflammation, muscle synthesis, neurological processes, all of these things are impacted by the food that we eat. And again, that involves both macro and micronutrients. And so it's important that we're including a variety of these foods in the diet because, different foods contain different nutrients. So we want to pick and choose from a wide variety so that we're able to get everything that we need in order to recover and get you back to your routine sooner if you are experiencing any post-exercise fatigue or any injuries or anything of that nature. Let's see. So what types of foods should you eat in order to promote healing? Again, we're looking at a variety of nutrient-rich foods, and in order to support injury healing as well as strengthen the bones and muscles. So we want to consume plenty of vitamins and minerals to help our body repair and fight off inflammation. So we're going to talk about some specific food groups as well as specific nutrients and how those tie into the healing process. So some specific food groups, and this actually isn't in the e-guide if you did pull that up, but some things to think about, and they're not necessarily food groups, but just some general tips. First off, fruits and veggies. You probably all saw this coming, but those are going to be powerhouses of nutrients, tons of vitamins and minerals packed in there, and they're carbohydrates. So while they're not the most energy enhancing foods, meaning that they're not super high in calories, they come packed with vitamins and minerals that can help with these things like tissue regeneration or muscle building, and especially with fighting off inflammation because they contain tons of antioxidants. And so a suggestion with that is to really try and mix up the color of fruits and vegetables that you're consuming, because they all contain specific antioxidants. So different color groups have different antioxidants in them. So there's like the red fruits and vegetables, things like strawberries or beets or pomegranate, raspberries. There's blue vegetables and fruits like blueberries or eggplant, things like that. Obviously greens, there's reds and oranges. So when you're thinking about fruits and vegetables, not only do you want to get a variety in terms of type, but also in terms of color, just to make sure that you're really getting a variety of antioxidants in that sense. Another thing to consider are things like herbs and spices. Again, this is really helpful with anti-inflammation. These spices and herbs, things like turmeric, cinnamon, ginger, cumin, green tea, even black pepper, they contain anti-inflammatory properties. So if you're just looking for an easy way to fight inflammation, you can add some of these herbs and spices to, roasted vegetables. You can add them to smoothies, or cinnamon you can add to sweet potatoes, or, oatmeal. There's all sorts of different ways that you can include some of these things in your day-to-day diet. Omega-3 fatty acids, we'll come back to on that e-guide. I know you can't see what I'm looking at now, but I'm looking at a different slide. Probiotics is another one. We could talk about probiotics forever, but really what that has to do with is gut health. And gut health is linked to anything you could really imagine. But certainly if you have what is considered a healthy microbiota, then you're going to be promoting a healthy body in general. That's going to promote that healing and recovery period and fight inflammation as well. And the probiotics really serve to ensure that you have that healthy gut microbiota. So a couple things with probiotics, you could take a supplement. Those are certainly widely available nowadays, but you can also just get probiotics in different foods. The most common would be yogurt, but you can also find it in things like kombucha, kefir, miso, kimchi, things like that. I don't know if any of you are familiar with the cookbook Run Fast, I'm going to say it wrong, Run Fast, Cook Fast, Eat Slow, or Run Fast, Eat Slow. But it's written by, oh goodness, I can't remember her name, but she is a marathoner, and then there's a nutritionist that collaborate on this, and they use a lot of miso and things in their recipes, and it's because it has that probiotic as a part of it. And lastly, red wine. So hopefully some people are happy to hear that one on this list. In moderation, of course, but red wine is actually very helpful in terms of fighting inflammation because it has an antioxidant called resveratrol in it. and it has very strong anti-inflammatory properties. So for women, that looks like drinking 1 glass of red wine at a time. And then for men, that could be up to 2 glasses of red wine. So if you are a wine drinker, red wine can certainly be a part of a healthy and balanced diet and help to fight inflammation and promote healing. Now I'm back at this e-guide if anybody's got it pulled up. And we're looking at some specific nutrients, first being protein. So again, I said this as a macronutrient. Basically with a macronutrient, it means that it is, one, you need it in a larger portion than a micronutrient, so you need a lot of it. And also it provides calories. So again, protein, carbohydrate, and fat are those 3 macronutrients that provide calories. Protein is particularly important because it helps promote wound healing, it helps keep the immune system strong, it plays a huge role in muscle building as well as bone building. And for runners especially, this is important because in the sense of bone building, it's really important because we might run into the issue of fractures. So it's important to include protein in small amounts at every snack and meal if possible. And that could look like 20 to 30 grams, closer to 30 for meals, maybe closer to 15 to 20 for snacks. And a quality protein choice would be something like an egg, low-fat cottage cheese, chicken, yogurt, milk. You could also have a vegetarian option of a protein, like soy products, including tofu and soy milk. So lots of options with protein, and really it's just important that you're thinking about that every time you go to eat a snack or a meal. It doesn't mean you need tons and tons of it, and you certainly don't want to eat it all at one period of time, because what happens when you do that is that your body just can't use all of that protein. So you really want to try and spread it out throughout the day so that you're maximizing the amount of protein that your body is able to utilize. The next kind of category is vitamin C and zinc. So vitamin C is obviously, I'm sorry.
Alyssa, I'm going to interrupt you for 10 seconds. I'm going to now attempt to share my screen and see if this will come up.
Perfect.
You may have to tell me when to scroll and where to get to.
Okay.
I'm going to take a shot at it. So we'll see what happens here. Just so you know, you can keep going, but you may suddenly see this pop up on the screen. First, you'll see.
Wonderful.
Give me 1 second. Can you see that?
I don't see anything yet, but it looks like your screen might be frozen for the time being. Let's see if it pops up. I know, all sorts of issues today. Sorry, guys.
Give me 1 second.
I see your kids.
There we go. There we go. How about that?
I see the running shoe guide.
Oh, fantastic. Hold on.
We're getting close. There we go.
And I don't want to download it again, but we'll try it just for fun. Let's see. All right, here we go. You tell me where you want to be.
Keep going. We are right here. Vitamin C and zinc. And hopefully my transitions are pretty obvious. I try and, make it known when I'm moving on to a new section. So great. Hopefully if you didn't have it pulled up, now you can see it, and we'll keep talking through it and hopefully not have any more issues today.
Yeah, sorry, everybody.
But with vitamin C and zinc, so again, vitamin C is obviously a vitamin, zinc being a mineral. When we're comparing that to protein, these are the micronutrients, meaning we just need them in less amounts, but they're still essential to the body. And when you're thinking about healing and kind of inflammation, really the micronutrients are playing a larger role in that process than protein itself, because you need these things to kind of stimulate these enzymatic reactions that allow for things like tissue regeneration to occur, or allow for the inhibition of inflammation to occur. The macronutrients are certainly still important, but micronutrients come into play a lot in the healing and inflammatory process. So with vitamin C and zinc, this is really helpful in that healing process. So if you have something like a tear or a cut or something like that, this is going to be really important because that vitamin C and zinc, they're both used to make collagen, and that's needed to repair those tendons and the ligaments. A lot of you are probably familiar with sources of vitamin C, certainly in citrus fruits, but also found in things like potatoes and broccoli, bell peppers as well. And then zinc is found mostly in animal products, so things like meat, poultry, fish, and then also dairy. You can also get zinc in whole grain products, as well as legumes, nuts, and seeds. So just a little insight into where you might be able to get some of those things. Again, supplements could be used here, but I'm a food first dietitian. So definitely want to give you guys some insight into where you can find these particular vitamins and minerals. Vitamin D and calcium, this is probably a more well-known group in terms of bone health. So calcium obviously is kind of that building block of bone. Vitamin D plays a role in calcium absorption and calcium homeostasis. So if you have vitamin D present, then you're going to be able to absorb more calcium and then use that to build your bone. If you don't have enough vitamin D, then you're not going to be able to absorb as much calcium, and that can be where you run into issues like fractures and things of that nature. And both of these are actually pretty widely underconsumed by Americans. So this is one where a supplement really might be helpful, especially if you find that you're not eating a lot of dairy, or if you're doing more plant-based sources of dairy. They often will be fortified to some extent, but not always to the same amount as that true dairy product. So again, this is really important for individuals who are suffering from fractures or who are, fraction prone. Yogurt's another good option for calcium in particular, but not always fortified with vitamin D. So these are really important to check those nutrition labels to see whether or not you're getting both of those nutrients, especially if you're looking at plant-based alternatives. Omega-3 fatty acids, these are really important for the anti-inflammatory process. So we see omega-3 and omega-6 fatty acids. Omega-6 fatty acids are the ones that are found more in meat products. So if you're eating a lot of red meat, you're going to consume more omega-6 fatty acids that are pro-inflammatory. So that's one thing to consider as well. If you are running a lot or if you're experiencing some sort of injury, you might want to cut back on red meat consumption because it's just going to exacerbate that issue. Whereas if you increase these omega-3 fatty acids, you're having that opposite anti-inflammatory effect. And in that sense, it's going to help promote a faster recovery period. So food sources of omega-3s, fatty fish, things like salmon is the most common, but also fish like trout, herring, mackerel's another one. Lesser eaten fish, in my opinion, but nice to have a good variety out there. You can also get this in flax seeds and walnuts, as well as flaxseed and walnut oil. So some other options that you might not think about. And also avocado. That's a pretty common one that's not listed there. Let's see. Do we have any questions about healing or inflammation and nutrition before we get into workout recovery? I don't know if we have any questions pulled up yet or if we want to wait till the end, but this is a good opportunity because we're kind of
nothing,
in the direction.
Nothing in the chat yet, Alyssa. I'm just gonna keep my screen. My wife is now on, so she's monitoring the chat side of it from her phone. So.
We will move on to workout recovery then. So with workout recovery, this is where you start to think more in terms of macronutrients, specifically protein and carbohydrates. And nutrition plays a role in that because we want to recover quickly and maintain high levels of performance during training. So really there's like three main objectives to nutrition and workout recovery. We need to refuel and rehydrate the body. So drinking water or some sort of sports drink, depending on the intensity and duration of the exercise that you did, is going to be very important. And then refueling with carbs and protein. And that's going to help to promote that muscle repair and growth, as well as support immune function. A lot of you have probably experienced this, but if you're not refueling properly, you're probably going to feel it the next time you go to work out. So you might feel sore, you might have more fatigue, or you're just getting into your workout and you just don't feel like you can give it as much as you would be able to had you refueled properly. And ultimately, that just leads to a decrease in performance. And if left like that for a long time and you're continuously not refueling properly, then you can run into the issue of injury. So definitely important to think about nutrition as you are recovering from your bouts of exercise. So there's kind of two things to consider when we're thinking about workout recovery. One is, when should you eat? And the second is, what should you eat? So some of you have probably heard this before, but a good rule of thumb for that post-workout nutrition period is about 15 to 60 minutes after you train. Sometimes this is easier said than done. It kind of depends on where you're doing your training at. So, if you guys just went out on your run from home, then you can come back to the house and quickly grab something. Whereas maybe you're going somewhere, you're meeting up with a group after work and you have a long commute home or something, you might get closer to that 60-minute period before you can eat something. So that's something where you want to plan accordingly. Maybe you need to bring a little post-workout snack or something in the car with you, or keep it in your gym bag or your purse, just so that you can really start to initiate this recovery period and help to refill those energy stores as quickly as possible. And you're also going to help stimulate that muscle synthesis. So the sooner you eat, really the better. Also, you want to try and consume mixed meals, meaning they contain multiple macronutrients. Ideally, you'd have a good combination of carbohydrates, protein, and fat. Certainly, you want carbohydrates and protein. So what this means is that you don't want to just work out and eat only an apple or only a banana. Yes, that's a good source of carbohydrate, and you're going to help fill your energy stores to some capacity, but then you're not getting that added benefit of protein that's going to help with muscle building and muscle recovery. So just not optimal to only include one food group. And fat's helpful as well, but not as important in terms of workout recovery. And then this does say within 6 hours. So within that 15 to 60 minutes, we're talking a snack or a meal with carbohydrate and protein, but you certainly want to have at least a couple of meals within that period that contain all of those food groups, just to make sure that your body is continuing with muscle building, muscle recovery, and then glycogen restoration. And if you all aren't familiar with the term glycogen, that's basically just the body's way of storing glucose, which we use for energy. So any glucose that we don't use immediately for energy, we store as glycogen, and we can pull that glycogen during our exercise when our energy is exhausted. So that's what kind of keeps you going during long runs or long bouts of exercise. So what should you eat after exercise? We've kind of already hit on this a little bit, but definitely want to include both carbohydrates and protein within that 15 to 60 minute period. And again, that mix of macronutrients really allows you to restore the muscle glycogen. And it says muscle glycogen because that's where you're storing the glycogen. And then also stimulate that muscle protein synthesis, which allows for muscle growth and recovery. So you're replacing your stores of energy that you can use for your later exercise, and then also helping your body build muscle. So it's important to choose snacks that have an ideal combination of carbs and protein for optimal recovery. And kind of already hit on this number already, but aiming for at least 20 grams of protein in that post-exercise meal or snack is a good number to shoot for in order to promote that muscle repair and rebuilding. Let's see. And here I just have some sample recovery snacks and meals. So it kind of depends on when you're doing your exercise and how much time you have after the fact, whether you're going to go for a snack or a meal. And maybe you do a snack first and then you use this meal later. So with snacks, again, we want to make sure we're hitting carbs and protein. So we see cereal with milk, cereal being your carbohydrate, milk being your source of protein, fruit with non-fat yogurt, again, fruit being your source of carb, yogurt being your source of protein there. A fruit smoothie, so with that, you could add milk, you could add yogurt, you could add a nut butter, something like that where you're including a protein source. A banana with some sort of nut butter. Trail mix, that's one where you'd want to include some sort of dried fruit or something in order to ensure you're getting that carbohydrate instead of just nuts or chocolate if you add chocolate to your trail mix. Low-fat chocolate milk is really considered one of those ideal recovery drinks because it does have that optimal ratio of carb to protein. Another option would be a canned tuna with something like a whole wheat cracker. So again, you've got that protein in the form of tuna and carbohydrate in the form of a cracker. Now, if you are coming home from your Tuesday night run and you're getting ready to have dinner, then a recovery meal is probably going to make more sense than a recovery snack. So something that you could do for that recovery meal period would be something like a whole wheat pita with some sort of deli meat turkey, or maybe you've got some cooked turkey, some sort of vegetable, a low-fat milk, and some pretzels. Pretzels are good for a little extra sodium, especially if you're a salty sweater or went for a longer run, then you can get a little bit of salt. It's important to restore those electrolytes. Another option, brown rice bowl with black beans, avocado, roasted veggies, and salsa. A stir fry with chicken, broccoli, peppers, carrots, and brown rice. So there's several options that you could do, but again, you just want to make sure you're varied in what you're choosing and hitting on all of those food groups. And with these meals, you can see that you're really including each of the food groups there. So with the whole wheat pita, you've got the carb, you've got turkey as your protein, and then a low-fat milk. Well, there's still fat in it, so you would include that as a fat source there. You could also have cheese on your pita or something like that. But lower fat options tend to be better for runners especially, unless you need the extra calories for some reason. With the brown rice bowl, you've got the avocados. That's wonderful because it's got that fat source, but also the omega-3s that we talked about that help with anti-inflammatory properties and can help with that recovery period. And then the stir fry, well, there's nothing here that's particularly related to fat as a macronutrient. You're probably using some sort of sauce there that would have fat in it. So just, get yourself thinking about whether or not you're hitting on each of these different areas and try to include as many different food groups as possible. And an even added bonus, if you can think back to some of those things we talked about earlier, like the spices or the probiotics or the omega-3 fatty acids, and try and add those types of foods to these meals as well for an extra boost that will help stimulate recovery. And that is the end of the e-guide. I do want to say for the month of July, we are offering free consultations and follow-ups for anyone who is interested in that. So if that's you, if you're that person, feel free to contact me. My email's listed here. It's alyssa.blanchett@gobeyondexercise.com. You certainly don't have to, but we are offering this promotion throughout July. So just something to consider if this is something you want to talk about in more detail, or if you have some other nutrition-related goal that you want to discuss as an individual. But with that, I am happy to address any questions, or if anybody has comments, feel free to post those now.
Yeah, people, come on. You don't want to look at my creepy, spooky, weirdly lit version of me. So this is all you get. Come on, ask her some questions. I have a dumb question, Alyssa, actually.
No, there's
So
questions.
it's not really a dumb question. It's a tendency. So when I'm done running, like, and I know there's a million reasons not to do this, but like I come home and oddly enough, I'm not necessarily hungry, but I want a snack, and
Yeah.
it's usually I tend not towards something healthy. Like I'm not going to sit and make myself a pita and something like that. I usually like go straight for like crackers, not like cookies or anything per se, but it's like something I can just munch on and grab. And I then tend to eat as I'm looking at my wife. The entire bag or the entire box. Just because like it's like in front of me and I'm hungry and
Yeah, I'm hungry.
my brain is saying it's okay because I just ran 10 miles or whatever. I know full well it's not, but why is it not, I guess is my.
Yeah, well, that's one of those things where, especially if you're just eating the crackers, you don't want to overindulge in anything either, and you want to fuel yourself appropriately. So it's one of those things, and runners run into this all the time, where they come back and they're like, oh, I just burned so many calories, I can eat whatever I want. But that's ultimately going to do the opposite of allowing you to reach your goals. You're going to somehow overeat. It can lead to weight gain, and that's not going to help with performance, and you're probably going to feel a little bit run down from overeating or not eating in the correct manner. So with that, like if you're running into that tendency, what I would say to do is pre-portion it out for yourself. So especially with crackers, it's easy to just go for the box and keep eating, especially if you're hungry. So I would say set aside your bowl and at least, think about another food group or another component that you can add to it. Even if it's a snackier thing like a cracker versus a whole wheat pita, that's fine. You just want to think, okay, well, how can I balance this out a little bit more? And so maybe you add some sort of protein source like the whole wheat tuna or a nut butter, like maybe you like crackers with peanut butter, or something, a deli meat even. You can make a little cracker sandwich. So just finding a way to balance it out, portion it out for yourself, get out of the kitchen, and then drink some water, rehydrate, and then come back to another meal later if you're still hungry. But tune into that. Like, are you truly hungry, or are you just eating to eat because you
Oh
just.
no, I think it's probably more of that. I think it's very much like I come home and I'm just like, yeah, like I'm in, I'm ready.
Yeah,
Would
so
it be appropriate to ask your spouse, mostly because they love you so much, to maybe make you a delicious snack oh, she said no. So
I was gonna
it's
say
already over.
it might be appropriate, but I don't know if they'd be on board with
Or if it'll actually happen.
it.
Yeah, that sounded like a resounding no from over on the couch.
That's unfortunate, but
Yeah, it is unfortunate. It's very unfortunate because
maybe
she's a good
special
cook too.
occasions.
Caroline, I'm sure, has a question because she's sitting there with her lacy pillow.
I actually do have a question. So, I feel like I tend to be opposite of Rick. Like I'll come home from a run or even just like on a normal day, and I don't want to like overeat because I have a desk job, and most of the time during the day I'm just like sitting there. I mean, I make sure I keep myself active like before and after work, get up, blah blah blah. But I feel like sometimes I have the opposite problem where I'm not eating enough, which sounds stupid, but then I feel like it will catch up to me like after a long run. I'm like, oh my God. And then I eat like 10 slices of pizza. That's an exaggeration. But kind of like, how do you find the balance of what's correct for your body? Or maybe this is like a personal consult situation.
No, I think a lot of people run into this issue, especially women, if we're like super into, oh, I want to work out, I have my goals, I don't want to overeat. Something that I really like to use with clients is called the hunger scale. And I don't know if this is something you run into just after runs or if it's kind of an ongoing daily thing. But with the hunger scale, what it is it's basically a scale from 1 to 10. 1 being I'm absolutely starving, 10 being I'm absolutely stuffed, like post-Thanksgiving meal, can't put anything else or I'm going to get sick. So I would ask yourself kind of where you lie on that scale. 5 is like a neutral, like neither hungry, neither full point. And what you want to do is fall within kind of that 3 being my stomach is growling, I can tell that I'm hungry, it's time to eat, but I'm not like hangry. So that's your body saying, okay, now it's time to eat. And then you want to stay in tune while you're eating and move to closer to like an 8 where, okay, I'm comfortably full. I don't want to eat any more. Otherwise, I'm going to start to feel uncomfortable. So it's really a mindfulness thing where you just have to like tune into your body and your hunger cues and say, okay, am I hungry? Yes, I need to eat now, and I need to eat until I'm comfortably full. Otherwise, what happens is you fall onto the extreme sides of the spectrum where you're running into this after long runs where all of a sudden you're super hungry and then you end up super full by eating 10 slices of pizza. So it's a common thing. It's just it's not something we think about all the time. And a lot of people aren't in tune with hunger and fullness. So for clients that I've worked with in the past, I'll have them do some sort of food logging where they actually track where they lie on that scale before and after meals, just to bring some mindfulness into their day-to-day eating. So that might be something you experiment with. It might not be. But I would encourage you just to like look up the hunger scale, and hopefully that's helpful. But
Yeah,
it's
no, that's super helpful.
Today's practice.
Yeah, thank you.
Of course. Any other questions?
I feel like Ahalia and Mike, because they're sitting there like morons with their sunglasses on their stupid vacation, should probably ask some questions.
Yeah, where are you at?
They're in New Mexico. They're stupid.
Oh,
A little late.
that's
Want to ask?
beautiful.
Well, now that I'm put on the spot,
Sorry.
and in New Mexico, you mentioned you mentioned talking about spices early and we missed that.
Sure.
Can you just expand on that briefly?
Yeah. So there's lots of different spices and herbs that you can easily add to meals that exhibit these anti-inflammatory properties. So turmeric, for one, is one that has been studied pretty expansively, and cinnamon as well, that if you include it in foods or during meals, it exhibits a lot of anti-inflammatory properties. So it's just one of those things that you can easily add to a meal, to a smoothie, coffee even, just to add a little bit of a boost to aid in inflammation and recovery.
So it doesn't matter the not the delivery system, but like, you know, it doesn't, adding it in certain ways doesn't take away some of the properties or anything. It's still gonna be.
I know of. There might be for some, like I know for some foods and things, if you cook them a certain way, then you can reduce the vitamin and mineral capacity of that food. So that's actually something to consider as well when we're talking about, you know, getting all of these antioxidants from fruits and vegetables. Well, if you're boiling things in water, if you'll even start to notice that the water starts to turn the color of whatever it is that you're boiling, that's those vitamins and minerals kind of exiting that food. So in situations like that, you can reduce the amount of vitamin and mineral that you get from a certain food. I don't know that to be true of spices, but I could be wrong. But that's something worth considering, is the cooking method can certainly play a role in the amount of vitamin and mineral that you're getting in your food. It's the same with canned vegetables. That's another thing as well. If you want peak vitamin and mineral in the produce that you're eating, fresh is going to be best. But frozen actually is is great because it's frozen at the peak of freshness. So if you are, just looking for an alternative to a fresh produce, maybe you can't get through it all at once, or it's just nice to have frozen on hand. That's preferred over something like a canned vegetable because it's going to have more vitamins and minerals in it compared to that canned product.
Thank you.
Yeah, of course.
I have a second question.
Go for it.
Another issue that I run into, not necessarily this time of year, but closer to like fall, winter, when things start to get super busy, like for my job and holidays and blah, blah, blah. I don't have as much time to cook.
Yeah.
And truth be told, I'm slightly lazy and I'm not good at meal prepping. So are there any like good supplements or protein bars or like good on the go things for lazy people who won't make their own food?
Supplements, I can't think of like a specific supplement. I would say like with supplements, if you're going to get like a vitamin and mineral one, look for one that's, let me check the brand, or it's NSF certified. It's NSF Sport. So if you're taking a supplement, you want something that has been studied and proven that what it says is in that supplement is actually in there, because it's a very unregulated business. I don't know if you were talking specifically about vitamins and minerals, but
yes, that was part of it. Yes,
okay, so that's one thing to think about. So I don't have a specific brand in mind, but I would look to make sure that you have a certified supplement.
Okay.
In terms of bars, some of my like go-tos that I would recommend are things like Lara bars or RX bars, because they're made with very minimal ingredients.
That's what I buy. That's so good.
Perfect. So yeah, that's a great option just to have on hand. And then with, busy times of year, that's when frozen vegetables can come into play as well. Always vouch for vegetables, but you can whip those up easy. A good way to do it, like a lot of people don't like frozen vegetables because they can get kind of not soggy, but they're just wet, I think. So you can microwave them, but then drain them out and then saute them, and add your own spices and things. It's a way tastier way of eating frozen vegetables than simply throwing them in the microwave. But that's a little pro tip for busy meals.
That's perfect.
Made easy.
Thank you.
Yeah. Any other questions?
I've got one.
Go for it.
So I'm curious your take. I'm hearing a lot of talk recently about, and I think it's kind of always out there, but it's just super present right now, about higher fat and lower carbohydrate training, like train low, race high, and that kind of mentality to lose body fat and sort of lean out. What's your take on that?
It's a good question. There's mixed research. So this is definitely an up and coming area of research where they'll look at kind of the opposite spectrum, where it's more high carb, lower fat versus a higher fat, lower carb type diet, and compare the exercise performance. From what I've read, there's really no benefit that's been seen of the higher fat compared to a higher carb ratio, especially if you're doing like an endurance type exercise like marathon training. Now there has been, there's mixed evidence, like I said. So some studies don't necessarily show that, but overall it's appearing that the higher fat diet isn't necessarily producing any benefit over a higher carb diet. So that could be something that's personal preference. You can experiment with that, see if a higher fat diet, if you like it more and you don't notice it decreasing your performance, then go for it. It hasn't been shown to necessarily decrease performance. It just hasn't been shown to consistently outperform a higher carb diet. That's the latest evidence that I've seen. Now, I haven't looked at this in a couple of months, So I'd be happy to look into it and see if there's been any newer research that's been done and if they've come to any new conclusions. But the last I've heard, it was kind of mixed, and the higher carb was still kind of thought to be preferred over a higher fat for endurance type athletes.
Thank you.
There was one question, Alyssa, and I'm going to let Karen. I'm going to read the question in the chat, and you may have potentially addressed it, but Karen asked, what supplements should you use and which should you avoid if you can't eat correctly or enough? And I think that was a little bit almost of what Caroline asked, or sort of mentioned when you were talking through Caroline's question as well. So I don't know if I'm missing a point there, of Karen, if you had a more specific question than that.
I'll just say generally supplements. So if you're looking for a multivitamin, that's one where you'd want to get it. I have to look it up again. I think it's NSF certified. There's another certification as well. I can't think of it off the top of my head, but it will say, NSF certified. So look on the supplement bottle, see if it has that certification, just to make sure that you are truly buying a supplement that contains that amount of vitamins and minerals. Because again, it's a very unregulated business. A lot of people are just putting these out there and no one's checking to see, does it actually contain what they're saying it contains? It's not as regulated as your traditional food and beverage industry. So you just want to be safe about that. In terms of types of supplements, again, I'm a food first dietitian. I believe you can get everything that you need in the correct amount from food. Now, if you're struggling with some sort of condition, or if you are injured, then you're going to need higher amounts of certain supplements. And like I said, there are supplements out, or there's vitamins and minerals out there that people are tending to underconsume. So some things that come to mind are vitamin D and calcium, which we touched on. Iron, particularly for women, especially if they're of childbearing age. Also, potassium is another one that people truly aren't getting enough of, or the vast majority of Americans aren't consuming enough potassium. All of these things you can get in a multivitamin. There's no need for you to go and get a supplement for each one of these vitamins and minerals unless it's medically indicated for some sort of condition. I can't think of any particular supplement that you need to avoid, again, unless it's medically indicated for some reason. I will say that there are some vitamins and minerals that can create toxicities if you get too much of them. Iron is one of those. So if you are consuming a decent amount of iron and taking a multivitamin and taking an iron supplement, you can get an iron toxicity. And that's something that you certainly would want to avoid. But toxicities are generally pretty rare unless you're supplementing a lot. So not something that you really need to be worried about unless you're taking several supplements and eating a lot of a food that has that particular nutrient in it. Is that helpful?
Yeah, it is. So I was taking turmeric supplements, and in my physical, my liver counts went way up.
Okay.
And then when I stopped, they went back down. So
Yeah.
I know that, so for me, as much as I want that anti-inflammatory property, I can't
And
do
that's
that.
one of those things where that supplement may just have had more than your body can tolerate. So just adding turmeric to meals, or, roasting it with vegetables, or seasoning your vegetables with it, adding it to like those turmeric lattes, or, finding some other way to add it so that you're getting some of that benefit without getting it in excess, is probably the best way to go in that kind of a situation. And that can be said for a lot of those types of spices where they are kind of putting them in the supplement form. They can tend to cause issues for some people if it's a very compact dose of that particular compound. So in your case, it was turmeric. Any other questions or thoughts?
I don't see anything else in the chat. I'll try not to put anybody else on the spot after getting Caroline and Ahalia and Mike. I figured that was
Oh, I'm ready. Put me on the spot anytime.
Laura's like, don't put them on the spot. That's not nice.
Well, I appreciate you guys coming up with questions, even if you were put on the spot. Hopefully it was helpful, at least.
Actually, I think they all were, oddly enough. even though I wasn't trying to be mean. Anybody else have any other questions for Alyssa? All right, guys, I will, Alyssa, you're welcome to stay on, but I will also send out in Thursday's email, I will link, we've actually linked this guide before, but I will link it again so you guys can grab it if you want it. The document that we partially got shared once I finally figured out my phone. I'm sorry, did somebody ask something?
No, sorry, that was me. I said sorry
you're
for
good.
the technical difficulties.
Oh, no, you're good. If I had lights, I'd have everything else. I have no power, so I'm good. But thank you, Alyssa. Really appreciate it. Very helpful, as always. And guys, I also mentioned in yesterday's email that I was also going to review a couple things with TeamBuildr. I am happy to probably verbally do some of that. I'm also happy to try to share my screen and TeamBuildr on this end if that helps you guys. But if anyone has any questions about it, it'd probably be easier for me to answer a question and or address any needs you guys have as you've been trying to navigate through it. So we'll give Alyssa a break if she wants it. Alyssa, you're welcome to stay on, but you don't have to. I'm gonna guess nobody's gonna ask me a question, but who knows? We'll see what happens. So does anybody have any questions about anything unrelated to Alyssa's presentation or anything specific to TeamBuildr? Nothing? Good. All right, guys. Well, if you have any questions, please let me know. If you're uncertain about how to read any of the workouts, I'm not trying to be remedial here, but I know several people have asked questions and they're not seeing, they weren't seeing what they were expecting when they logged into TeamBuildr and or were seeing things that weren't abundantly clear at the first glance. So there's no bad questions about it. So if you're looking at something that doesn't quite make sense, it's new, we get it. So we're certain to encounter some hurdles and some learning curve here. So please, if you guys come up with anything or if anything changes and you're not quite sure how to use something, please let us know. Happy to guide you through it. In the meantime, I hope everyone continues to have a great week. Alyssa, thank you again for all your time. And thank you to everyone else who's been on here on the call. And again, guys, let us know if you have any questions at all during the week. Thursday, we will be having our world famous happy hour, 7:30 p.m. on this same channel. Hopefully we'll see everybody then. Alyssa, you're welcome to join. And otherwise, guys, have a great week. We'll talk to you soon. Take care, guys. Thank you.
Everyone.
Bye.